Okay. Mic check 1 2. 1 2. It's the Y2K Collector coming at you on a rainy Thursday evening. Hopefully this video gets you home on your drive home. Hopefully it helps you stay awake. If you're taking a break on your lunch break, hopefully I'm able to get you through that lunch break and give you something to listen to. Maybe you're going down, you're getting ready to head to bed, and you just wanted to catch one more quick YouTube video. Hopefully you find this one entertaining. But I did want to talk about something that I think impacts a lot of us here in the retro gaming community and even in the video game community. And I've heard it talked about recently on multiple channels, and I thought that I would give my thoughts and perspective on it. And that is the idea that the retro gaming community or the video game community is toxic. And you know, I've got a few thoughts and opinions on that I figured I'd share. So buckle up, grab a drink, settle in, let's talk about it. So I'm gonna take it back, right? I've always been a part of the gaming community. And I think all it takes for you to be a part of this community is just to have a love of video games, and play video games. Really, I don't think there's a requirement to how many hours you need to log playing video games. I don't think there's a requirement as to how many video games you need to have in your collection. Shoot, you may not own a single physical video game, but maybe you do a ton of gaming on your cell phone. Maybe you download a bunch of apps that allow you to play old games on your phone. You are a gamer, in my opinion, because there are no set rules that define what a gamer is or who's allowed to be in this community. And I never felt that was the case growing up completely. But I think somewhere along the line, ego stepped in. Right. And I think that's what happens in almost anything in any part of, you know, our current, you know, society. Whenever you allow ego into a situation, that's usually where problems and that usually becomes the root of a lot of issues. And so for me, you know, like I said, I never growing up, considered, you know, that there needed to be a certain amount of games you owned, or that you needed to have a certain amount of time playing video games to be considered a gamer, because we were all kids and we all played video games. Now, what I do remember though is that as I started to get a little bit older, you know, when by older I mean like 3rd grade, 4th grade, by the time I got to 5th grade, that was when, you know, kids started to do the comparison thing. That was when it was like, oh, okay, so you have Sega Genesis, or I have Super Nintendo. Well, Super Nintendo is better than Sega Genesis because Super Nintendo has Mario. Well, Sega Genesis is better than Super Nintendo because Sega has Sonic. And, well, I have 10 games for my Sega. Well, I have 15 games for my Super Nintendo. Well, I also have a Game Gear. Oh, yeah? Well, I have the Game Boy and a Game Boy Color, right? And so this is where the whole measuring contest begins, right? And I think even at that early age, even at that young age, this is where the comparisons begin to get drawn. And I think as a kid, you know, the kid that everyone liked was the kid who had the coolest stuff, right? At least in my school. I don't know about your school, but in my school, if you were the kid and the only game you had was like Duck Hunt, but the kid on the other end of the classroom had like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, guess who everyone was sitting next to? The kid with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? So somehow these games kind of played a role into your social status as a child, right? As a kid. It kind of separated you from some of your other friends when you had the cooler games, right? If you were constantly coming to show and tell with the latest version of Street Fighter or the latest version of Mortal Kombat, yeah, yeah, guess what? Everybody wanted to hang out with you. They wanted to be your friend so that they could do what? Borrow your video games. And it's so superficial looking back on it, because that's really all kids wanted. I mean, sometimes they it could have been a kid that never spoke to you all year, but the second they found out you had the new Batman Revenge of Joker, now they want to sit next to you at lunch. Now they want to give you their lunch milk. Now they want to buy you some M&Ms, all in an effort to borrow your video games. And I think it's at that early of an age that we start to apply social status to the games we own. So now we fast forward 30 years into the future, right? Where we're in this digital age. We have things like social media, where attention is currency, because that's literally the age we're in right now. Attention is literal currency. If you can get people to watch you, if you can get people to listen to you, you can genuinely build a career off of that. And there are many people who have, not only in the video game space or the retro gaming community, but in all types of hobbies, whether that be cars, toys, fashion, food, sports. There are content creators everywhere across a number of platforms, including YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and it becomes this ecosystem where, again, ego steps in, pride steps in, and begins to kind of determine levels of status. And like any ecosystem, the folks who are at the bottom, the folks who get the least amount of attention, sometimes those folks can become bitter. Sometimes those folks can become jaded, especially if you are a person who has worked really hard at trying to garner attention, but you've just never been successful at it. You've just never been able to get that type of attention, or you were never able to afford the things that a lot of other kids liked. So if you were like me growing up and all you had were Tiger Electronics, while everyone else had Game Gear and Game Boy, well, guess what? You were at the bottom of the totem pole. Lucky enough for me as a child, I had a lot of things I was into. It wasn't just video games. I liked sports as a kid. I liked music. I liked fashion. So my taste and hobbies were so eclectic that I was always able to find my way and navigate the social circles of, being a kid in junior high and high school and things like that. But when you are, pigeonholed into one hobby, like the hobby of retro games, a lot of, and for a lot of folks, that's what it is. A lot of folks, video games are their everything. And I've literally seen people, adults on YouTube, genuinely upset because no one cares about their content. And in some ways, it kind of hurts me for them, because I know that, all they maybe the idea is that they probably just want to share their joy of the hobby with someone, and they want someone to celebrate it with them, but they're just not able to garner that attention. And, feelings of rejection, feelings of, not being, good enough or as good as the next person can sometimes cause people to lash out. And we see this in so many different areas, not just in video games. And so just bringing it back to video games, though, I think this is where a lot of the toxicity comes from. And to be honest with you, I don't think there's many people in the community that this happens to. I think there's a very, very small amount of people in the retro gaming community, just like in every other community. But that small group can be so loud that it makes you think that there's more of them than there actually are. And that's the way it typically works, right? The people who are hurting the most usually cry the loudest. They make the most noise. They leave the most comments. They leave the most thumbs down. They leave the most ridiculous remarks, right? They have all the negativity to spew because they really have nothing else to offer the community. outside of that, because anything else that they've tried to offer the community, no one's really cared about. So they think that their only way to be noticed or get that attention is to spew negativity. And it's really sad, to be honest with you. It's really sad when I see that. It's sad when I see toxic behavior in the retro community, because this is such a fun hobby. The nature of video games is genuinely fun. It's genuinely, something that we enjoy. So to see it become an avenue for people to express their own repressed anger and negative feelings that they've harbored since they were 4, it's just tough. It's not tough on me, it's tough on you or whoever it is that does that. But I think that for the rest of the community, like I said, that's a very small group of people in the community. I don't think that there are as many negative and toxic folks in the community as you think, or as you would think based on the comments. I just think that there are a lot of folks that try to go and just stir the pot. But if video games brings you joy and it's something that you really love and it's something that you've always been a part of, man, screw those people. Continue to do you and continue to enjoy the hobby that you love and continue to do what you like, and ignore the haters, ignore the toxic folks, block them, remove them, get rid of them, because this is something that is fun. It's always been fun. And the biggest thing about retro games is that it allows you to bask in the nostalgia, right, of a time when you were carefree, of a time when you were just a kid and your biggest responsibility was figuring out how you were going to beat Bowser. How am I going to do this today, right? Like, how am I going to actually get all 100 and was it 120 or 150 stars in Mario 64, right? How am I going to find that extra star, that last star in Mario 64, right? How am I going to learn this air combo with Psylocke in Marvel vs. Capcom 2? How am I going to find all of the energy tanks and the power-ups in Mega Man X? These were the things that you worried about as a kid. And when you think about that time, it brings you joy. Unfortunately, for some people, when they think about that time, it does not bring them joy. The memory of retro games does not bring everyone joy. And so you got to kind of have to just keep that in mind. Everyone is an individual. Everyone has their own experiences, and everyone has their own opinion. And here on my channel, I always ask folks, let me know what you think down in the comments, because I'm always interested to hear your thoughts. I'm always interested to hear what you think, as long as it's respectful and as long as no one's being rude, as long as you're not just trying to spew negativity. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. But when it reaches a level of being toxic, that's when you have to go sit in a corner. I have to put you in a corner and give you time out, because that's not what we're about over here. But I'm interested to know what you think. I mean, this is a topic that we could talk about for days, talk about this for hours, but these are my initial thoughts. I'd really like to know what you guys think about the idea that the video game community has become toxic. Is this true? What do you all think? Let me know. Depending on the comments, I may do a follow-up to this video and do a part 2. But I thought that this was something really interesting to look at and interesting to talk about. But that does it for me. It's the Y2K Collector. Hopefully you've been having a positive week. It's Thursday, so we're one day away from the weekend. One more day, and then we'll be able to chill out this weekend. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.